You're listening to Stand Tall and Own It, the podcast for high-performing female leaders who are ready to make an impact by discovering the safety that comes from understanding their own value and exercising their own authority. I'm your host, Andrea Johnson, and I'm here to tell you it is time to just truly be you, my strong friend. It's time to stand tall and own it. Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Stand Tall and Own It. I'm your host, Andrea Johnson, the Intentional Optimist, and we are embarking here on our third episode in a series dedicated to demonstrating how and where your core values can be integrated or implemented to employ them in your life and business. Now, I've been blessed to have the opportunity to apply core values principles to a really wide variety of audiences through this goal of getting on 200 podcast interviews this year. Now, the podcast process has increased my understanding. It's made me a better coach. It's helped deepen my devotion to this work. It's given me a better understanding of the breadth of my message and what we can do with core values. But also it empowers me to help you live in a way that honors your own non-negotiables. So in this series already, we've looked at the first episode, two back. We looked at a question of, are there core values that are common to different personality types? And the answer was yes. And I walked you through a bunch of disc types and how different core values show up in those. Last episode, we answered the question, can I use my core values in parenting? Either my own core values or recognizing that in my children. And if you have kids and you haven't listened to that one, or if you work with children and you haven't listened to that one, as soon as you're done with this one, scroll back and catch that one because there's some really valuable information in there. Now today, we're going to be answering the question, how can I employ my core values in my branding and marketing, either personal or business? Now, before you actually eject, if you don't have your own business, please know this is for you because personal branding is broader than just business owners. So I want to show you how core values do show up in your life as branding. Before I get into that particular aspect of it, I want to give you a short review. If you're new here and you haven't heard me talk about core values, I define them in a very specific way. So welcome. I'm glad you're here, and I hope that you stick around and that you really learn a lot. And you'll find a really good community here of people who are very dedicated to learning and growing. But my definition of core values is this. It's the principles and priorities that guide your actions. They represent the foundational convictions that allow you to navigate complex situations while keeping your identity and authority at the forefront. In other words, you can make it through hard times, you can bend with the wind without breaking, and you can always show up as you, not as somebody else. We're no longer mimicking other people. And when we get into branding and marketing, it's very common to do that. A lot of times we will mimic someone, we'll do swipe copy from somebody else, and we'll use a template that somebody else uses, or we'll pull a template off of TikTok or a Canva, something like that. But either way, we want to make sure that we're working from our core values in what we present to others and how we show up for ourselves. The core values that we hold, they're our inner compass. These are our hardwiring, and these are the things that make you, well, you. Now, before I dive in here, I want to make it very clear, I am not a branding expert. I am a leadership coach. I am I study personal branding because I actually have a business, and I'm going to share a little bit in a minute about how personal branding has shown up for me in ways that I didn't really expect. But for me as a business owner, I really do. I've paid a lot of attention to personal branding, and I've been very clear. I have templates that I use for specific things because I want them to be brand specific. I have a logo, all of those things. Even the rebranding of this podcast from Intentional Optimists, Unconventional Leaders to Stand Tall and Own It has been an effort to make it more authentic and to, quite frankly, scream my core values. Okay, so I have also had some really powerful conversations with a few branding experts, and I am excited to actually share them with you. So I've done my own branding work, like I said, but I also have 30 plus years as an employee. And I have some personal deconstruction that I've gone through. And so these are the lenses through which I'm going to present some of this stuff. The goal is to look at how your core values either influence or can be employed in your personal branding or your professional branding to really make a difference for you. So I hope, even if you're not a business owner, you will find some really good value here because we're going to be talking about both aspects of that, okay? Now, what we're going to look at here is, number one, what is personal branding? My definition. This is not a branding expert's definition, right? But I'm also going to then look at what does it look like when you honor your core values in those areas. I'm just going to give you like 3 main areas. So what does it look like when you honor your core values in those areas of your professional and your personal life? So very simple. This is very high level, and I will give you some examples, but they're all from my observation and my experience. And so I'm not doing research. I will share links and stuff with you, but they're all from conversations that I've had. These are not necessarily, I have not done research on this. This is my opinion, right? So in my opinion, what is personal branding? I think there's 3 main aspects to personal branding. And the first is the physical appearance, be it a store or a human or the clothing you wear, the hairstyle you have, the colors that you use, the fonts that you use. So the first piece of personal branding is appearance. The second piece is communication. It's the way you speak. It's how you sound. It's the phrases and words you use. It's the opinions that you share. Like I'm sharing my opinions here. A lot of times we'll say if we hear like, even now it's like so-and-so said such and such, and we might say, well, that's on brand. What we mean is that is consistent with what we've heard before, and it's what we expect to hear from them. We use different words in different areas of the country or the world. My family is all from Southeast Texas, and we say y'all. And it is very normal for us to say y'all. It feels weird for me when I hear someone from New York say y'all. And because they don't necessarily say that, I mean, it's becoming, I think, a little less colloquial and a little bit more universally accepted. But it also, it's just being, I don't know, it's being used more often than not. But I also love words. I like big words. When I was in 3rd grade, they're like, she's reading at a college level and we need to give her some more books. They do all those testings and so I don't mind big words, and I grew up around different languages. So I like the etymology of words. I like studying the root of the word. So I'll use things like words like undergirded. And I have a friend who said, the first time I heard you speak and you use the word undergird, I knew you were my people, because she likes big words too. But for me, that's a word that is just so strong in the way it communicates the foundation that you can build or have in place to support whatever it is you have. If it's an idea, if it's a building, if it's a piece of furniture, whatever it is, I just love that word. And I even do this with my family. I love teaching my son new words. He's almost 16. So I like the fact that we can have kind of logical, wordy conversations. And because I am currently studying on Duolingo and grew up in Korea, I'm studying the Korean language. I also studied Spanish in high school, but I was around other languages. I just love the sound of different words. And we were discussing in the car the other day the fact that he likes Monster energy drinks. And so my husband's always finding him new flavors. And he didn't like this one. He said, it's just too sweet. And I said, I'm driving the car. And of course, when I say something like that, the two of them usually kind of roll their eyes a little bit. In olden days, we used to use the word cloying to mean too sweet. And it's a really effective way to communicate how intensely over the top sweet something is. And my husband just kind of turned and looked at me and goes, Lordy, I don't even know that word. And I am terrible at crosswords, but I just love communicating in ways that are very specific, right? So it's communication. It's the way you speak. It's also, and we'll talk about this in a second, how you handle confrontation or conflict. That is a piece of communication that is very much part of your brand. The third piece, so the first piece is appearance, the second piece is communication, and the third piece is kind of how you act. It can be as simple as how you stand or how you walk. It can be how the system you put your clients through. It can be how you show up in the community, how you interact with other people, how you talk to children, whatever it is. But it's how you do what you do. And if you've listened to me long enough, you know that that phrase I use a lot with intentional optimism because that's personal life principles and that's personal branding. But when you look at your business, you might be thinking, okay, how does my website present me? It's not just the appearance of the website, but how well does it work, right? When I do my own website, and I'll share that in a minute, but I have a friend who says, Andrea, your pop-up, like don't go away pop-up, like sign up for this thing pop-up is too fast. It's 5 seconds. And it was a default thing. I didn't even realize it was there. And so I've gone in and changed that to like 30 or 45 seconds because I don't want people to like exit off my website just because the pop-up came up too fast, because if they want to follow me, they're going to follow me. That's just, I want them to feel like they belong, not like they're involved immediately in a transaction when they get on my site. But it could be in your social media. It depends on, do you do a lot of videos? Are you a stories person in Instagram? Do you do a lot of DMing? Do you share a lot of articles on LinkedIn? It all shows up on, your personal branding is all of those things. It shows up in how you deal with your team, if you have a team, or your clients, and how you handle them, what systems you put them through, what expectations you have of your team. It might even be the structure of your team, all of those kind of things. And then personally, like I said, it's the personal life principles of how I do what I do, but it's part of your brand is how you show up with your family or your community, how you do your work, how you show up as an employee, if that's what you do. It may have to do, or it may include, or actually does include, your political affiliations or your community organization affiliations and the decisions that you make. So I think those 3 pieces are a really good starting place at a very high level for understanding what branding might be. Now, when you actually know and honor your core values, you can be intentional about your brand, be it personal or professional. Because here's the main deal here, folks, is that good branding will attract the right people and repel the right people. The people that need to be in your circle, the people that need to be your clients will come to you because of your branding. The people that don't need to be in your circle, that don't need to be your clients, will not come to you because of your branding. So it's repelling the right people and attracting the right people. That's what good branding will do. At its foundation, I think implementing your core values is basically an aspect of authenticity. Now, whether or not authenticity is one of your core values, because it is one of mine, the concept of being true to who you are is what makes your brand, be it personal or professional, believable and attractive to whom it's supposed to be attractive. All right? I dated a guy in college. That didn't last. The one thing that actually lasted was his definition of cool. And he kept calling this certain person in our lives cool. And I'm like, I don't get how you call this person cool. They don't fit any definition of cool that I've ever seen, from Fonzie to Snoopy to, whatever. They weren't a cool kid per definition. And he said, no. My definition of being cool is being yourself no matter the situation or circumstance. That has stuck with me since college. And I shared it with my husband and I shared it with my son. And so I think that is how you show up authentically and let your core values shine and be honored in your branding. Because when you use core values in branding, as a reminder, they're your principles and priorities that guide your actions. So if you're doing something in your branding, because I've changed mine because it wasn't really reflecting my principles and priorities in some odd way, if you're not showing up authentically in that way, then it's going to show. People are going to know, and they're not going to see you as, or your business, or you as an employee, or you as a human as authentic, and they're not going to be as attracted to whatever it is that you want them to be attracted to or that you're trying to show. Now, when we look at core values as they show up in appearance and branding, we may not want appearance to matter, especially when it comes to personal appearance. And there are plenty of people who say personal appearance should never matter, and it shouldn't, right? The fact is, it really does affect other people's perceptions. Now, before you get your hackles all up on the back of your neck, I'm not here to tell anybody that they have to dress a certain way or look a certain way. That's not what I'm here for. That would go against everything that I'm teaching about core values. I just want us to recognize that part of core values showing up in the appearance of your branding appearance, be it your personal or your professional, is that it does affect other people's perceptions of what they're looking at. If I had, and I think I did this for a little while, everything was very woodsy in my social media. I like, you have to go through a couple of things to try it out. Everything was very natural, nature-oriented and woodsy, and you would think that I actually live in a log cabin and love to go on hikes every day. Now, I love a good hike. I went on one yesterday, but that's not who I am. I am much more likely to live in a house that looks like Mies van der Rohe designed it, or no, I don't. I'd love to. It's all very, mid-century modern. I love that kind of thing. But so I had to like reconcile my love for nature and my want to share and help people feel like what we were doing was very organic and natural. I had to figure out how to present that in a way that actually was more true to who I am appearance-wise. So while we think it may not or shouldn't matter, it does. So let's talk about personal, in the personal branding and in the way, there's no way to get away from the idea that wardrobe matters. What do your clothes say about you? Now, I have actually sat through and participated in, I think, 3 different personal stylists freebies, like they're free courses, like it might be a week or something. And every single one of them started with, what's your lifestyle? What kind of clothes feel comfortable on you? What's your body shape? What do you do for a living? Because nobody was interested, not a one of those stylists was interested in saying, this is what you have to look like to be seen as professional. You're going to get that when you walk into certain industries. And trust me, I've been in them. I actually, there was a pantyhose rule at a place where I worked, and I just decided to just wear pants. Like, no. I mean, I would wear tights or something in the winter, if I wanted to wear a dress, but it's like, no. It's like, if men don't have to do that, why should women, right? It's like, what's the point? There's nothing, anyway, I don't want to get started on the patriarchy, but either way, your clothes do say something about you. If you are someone who is in a corporate job that, and you want to show up in a certain way, and therefore you put on a uniform to show up in that job, and then you have a personal side, that's totally different. You might be somebody who wears scrubs in order to work in an environment for your work environment. And I'm always really surprised. Now, I don't know if this happens in real life, but on television shows where police officers or EMTs or physicians go to work, change clothes into their scrubs, and I did see this in the medical field where they would put on their street clothes, and they're like really nice street clothes. And I've always marveled at that because I'm like, if I could live in scrubs and sweatpants, I just might. I mean, yeah, I still need to have my nails done and everything, but I just might. So I have actually watched people struggle from going from corporate to where they had to wear like supposedly a uniform. And quite frankly, you can have different levels of intensity to your own style that will fit in different levels, right? It might be you have a style that works for corporate that it's not necessarily the blue suit, be it a pants or dress suit, but it might be something that's a little bit more conservative, but all the way down to, the clothes that you wear to lounge around in and watch TV. But I've watched people go from corporate to self-employed and just be really like flummoxed, or going from one job to a new job and realizing, oh my goodness, do I need a whole new wardrobe? And I love helping people and watch people who can say, no, I'm going to be me. I just need to figure out maybe I need one more piece, or maybe I need to just wear these pieces together rather than those pieces together, and it's still okay, and you can still be you, right? This afternoon, I don't scroll on social media very often. That's something that my family knows about. It's like, did you see that Facebook post? I'm like, no, I don't scroll. I post and I respond to DMs, but I don't scroll a lot. But I did notice in a group, this one woman who is vivacious and whimsical, and she's pretty intense, and she's very, she's a free spirit, right? But she posted in a group that I'm in that she is going to a professional conference or a conference out of town, and they told her to dress to the nines. And she said, help. My normal wardrobe is cut off jeans, a tank top, and my cowboy boots. What do I wear? And I was delighted to see so many people say, well, number one, don't go buy a bunch of stuff. Because she's like, where can I get clothes to dress to the nine? And they're like, your closet. Because you still have to be you, right? It would be so sad to me if she showed up in something that quote unquote dressed her to the nines, but she wasn't comfortable in, and that she wasn't able to show up and be her full self, because she's got this big personality and it's wonderful to be around. So I was excited to see that. And she may pick up one or two pieces to augment and make her regular wardrobe still reflect her, but be on a different level, right? So that's a big piece of what appearance, and this, we'll get into business in a second, but it can be business, but a lot of times this is your personal brand. What does it look? What does your wardrobe say? Another piece of that is, I've mentioned it several times, is hair and makeup. Everybody knows everybody knows Jennifer Aniston is famous for her hair. And she's famous for a specific haircut and hairstyle. And it's been shorter or longer, but she has hair that does certain things. Lady Gaga is famous for her makeup. Not all of us can wear makeup like Lady Gaga. Not all of us want to wear makeup like Lady Gaga, but that is her stage persona. And for me, a lot of celebrities get this, right? I was just yesterday telling my husband I had forgotten about this because my son, who's almost 16, showered in the morning instead of at night because he just kind of stayed up a little too late and didn't pay attention to the time. And we were talking about how we would be fine if he switched to showering in the morning. But we both were talking about how we both kind of switched. He said, I switched in high school. And I said, oh, I switched in like 6th grade. And he said, really? And I said, oh yeah. I said, I had a Farrah Fawcett hairdo. I needed to blow dry it and put it in the hot curlers in 6th grade. Y'all, I was 11 years old and I still did that. And then after a Farrah Fawcett, I ended up with a Dorothy Hamill, which is, this little swing cut that was very famous. This Dorothy Hamill, the Olympic skater. And now finally, for probably the last, I was literally thinking back when I was kind of putting this outline together. How long has it been? I've had a variation of this for at least 20 years. And so I call it the Andrea. And I've had other people. I started with a stylist that I worked with in Baltimore, and she kind of figured it out for me. And I had a bob, like it was down my shoulders, and then we kind of went up short. And then we did something else. And then we went over the top. I used to have a wedge. So this is sort of a combination of a couple of cuts. But the reality is I actually cut it myself I cut it to fit my head. And it's become a personal brand item for me because it works for my hair. It works for my face. And during the pandemic, I could go out in my sweatpants because we were all working from home. And I could go out in my sweatpants and a mask on, no makeup, and walk into a store and have someone else in a mask 6 feet away say, hey, Andrea. And I'm looking at them thinking, I have no idea who this person is. Because they might have a hairstyle that is very common. This happened with a guy, and he had a haircut that was like, oh my gosh. And so he lowered his mask a little bit, and I went, oh, hey. And then someone else did it and I said, hey, this is Andrea. And she said, I know it's you. I could see you coming all the way down there. She said, I would recognize that hair from a mile away. It's part of my personal brand. I didn't mean to make it part of my personal brand, but it is how my hair looks to people. It's just something that they see and they know that it's mine. And if you have paid attention the last couple of years, I actually am almost about 90% gray, silver, and there's some white spots up front. I actually let it all grow out. And you go back 3 videos, you'll see 3 or 4 videos back, you'll see the white hair. And I got a lot of compliments on it, but I got compliments on the color, but I always got compliments on the cut. The cut stayed the same. And I realized that when I was on vacation, actually, that my personal brand, actually part of my personal brand was the color. And in order to be true to myself, I needed to actually put the color back in. So I've started coloring my hair again, and I've been outside today, so it's just a little bit flatter, but it's still the same cut. It still has the sweepy bangs and the little sideburn thingies, and this is just my cut. What's funny is as I was checking out, buying, because normally I have nicer hair color stuff, but I had thrown it all away because I was going to go au naturel, because I was going to be authentic. So this is the irony in all of this, and this is the experimentation in all of it. Is that I was checking out at Walmart because I was buying some hair color, And a woman at the register next to the one I was at made an effort to walk over to me and say, I just love your haircut. And my husband was with me, and I said, oh, thank you very much. I don't know that she saw the fact that I was putting hair color in my bag, but my husband leaned over and he goes, which did she compliment, the color or the cut? And I said, the cut. And he goes, okay, then feel free to color it, right? But I didn't realize how trying to be natural and trying to be authentic actually was going against my own authentic brand of having like the blonde streaks in my hair and that kind of thing. So for men, it might be facial hair or no facial hair, but hair and makeup really matters. It actually, it is part of your personal brand. So if you're somebody who's showing up business-wise, or you want, I'm not going to tell anybody that they have to look a certain way to be taken seriously, but if you want to be taken authentically, you need to honor who you are. And if that means you don't wear any makeup, if that means you have long hair that you might pull up a lot, those are you, and you need to be you, and just do it with a lot of confidence. Another aspect of appearance might be accessories. When you think of like glasses that people wear, Alice Apfel, the famous designer, she was iconic for the glasses that she wore. When I think of Ray-Ban aviators, I can't help but see Tom Cruise in Top Gun. It's just, they become a piece that you always have with you. Even things like purses and watches. My best friend and podcast producer and I had some, when we were going through branding stuff this last fall, she's like, I need you to lose the watch. And I'm like, I know, but it's this, I wear it all the time. And she's like, I know, but it's really big. And then finally she said, you know what? It's just you. Thank you. Because I took it off a couple of times, but she said, it's just you. And so just being true to who you are and showing up as yourself is extremely important. But little things like a purse for a woman, or a bag, like my son switched from a big backpack to a messenger bag, and now he's really liking it. It's freeing him up. I was carrying tote bag styles for a long time because I had a baby at 42, and so I had a small child for a long time. But then I had a laptop that I had to carry back and forth 3/4 of a mile to my office from my car, and it got to where that was just the style of purse I carried. Even when I left working for the university, I just kind of carry these bags because that's what I had. And a friend who has a lovely upscale consignment shop and does a little personal styling on the side said, I need to talk to you about your bag. And I said, why? And she said, well, if we're talking about your own personal brand, she said, I can't see you because I see a big bag coming. I'm like, oh, that it never occurred to me, but I need this big bag, right? It's like, it became a little bit of a, I don't know, security blanket. So try this little one. And it was a little kind of box style. And I had to like pare down everything that was in it. The reality is it freed me up. Now all I carry is little bags, unless I still have the nice ones. I still have the big ones. And I use them when I go visit clients and I need to carry my computer, that kind of thing. They're perfect because I have like bright red shiny ones and yellow ones, and they're beautiful. But having something like that has kind of liberated me to just let me shine. Because when we're talking about business, we're talking about the colors that you include. If you like, for instance, I'm just going to use mine as an example, but it's the colors, the fonts, the styling. If you go to my website, it's very clean. It's very white. I wanted the colors to be me. I wanted to be the color on my site, but I wanted it to be something where I could shine through myself, because I want to show people that they are welcome there. And so I didn't want any particular color that might throw somebody off. I have been banking with a particular bank for a while here in the Mid-Atlantic, and they were bought out by somebody else and they switched their colors. And another entrepreneur locally was like, I have to change banks because I cannot, literally one of the colors they chose is one that like triggers epileptic fits in me. And I don't know if it was quite that bad, but I thought, oh my goodness, right? Branding matters. I mean, the colors in your branding really matter. It's like she felt like she couldn't be included any longer. So when we look at the core values that you want to impart through your brand, then we're talking about the colors and the fonts and the styling. Everything's very clean and white. But I wanted that to come from me. When you look at storefronts, if you see blue and white checkered stuff with big bubble letters, you know that's Bath and Body Works. Or if you see like a big orange expanse, it's a big building and it's orange. It's probably Home Depot. I mean, there are things that you want to communicate with those colors in your storefront. And it may be that you have to play around with that a little bit to figure it out. But a good branding strategist is going to find out how you want to attract clients, how you want people to be drawn to you. And if the colors that you choose for your brand actually loses you clients, maybe they were never your clients in the first place. But when we're careful, we can actually convey the things that are important to us through the colors, the fonts, the style that we use in social media as well. And it's also how you present your services and offers. If, for instance, my top core value is thinking for myself. So I am not somebody who likes other people to tell me what my services and offers need to look like. I don't mind doing something custom, but I do have to have a little structure. And I'm 5 years into this, and it was just this week that I finally put something on paper that said, these are the services I'm offering right now. But I had to work through that on my own. So my services were not always really clear, which made it harder for clients to work with me. So those are the areas in which appearance can matter, and how if you know your core values, if it's respect, then you might want to make sure that the wardrobe you wear and the way your website shows up for people and the way your website presents your business is very respectful. And it's going to depend on how it shows up for you, or how you see it is how it shows up for the client. But it's going to look different for each person. But this is how you start thinking about those things in the area of appearance in personal branding. Now, the second piece of branding, communication, is extremely important. I mentioned earlier that it's the words we use, it's the way we speak, it's how we talk to people matters. And I did an interview with a podcast called Branded, and I've put that in the show notes. The link is in there, and it was this a couple of co-hosts, a guy and a girl, and we ended up kind of going off a little bit on a tangent with DISC, because how you communicate in your business and to other people really matters as well. You have to be willing to find out your wiring and the way you communicate in order to make sure that your communication with those you want to attract to you is on target. And we were kind of joking about the fact that the guy is, in his business, he had to modulate a few pieces in his the way he communicates in order to honor the core values that he has, because the way he communicates is very D-oriented, but he really wanted to be a little bit more welcoming and I-oriented and story-oriented in his business. And so he had to play those up. And those kind of things, they really show up. I am still working through season 3 of The Bear. And if you watch it, you know that there's a lot of communication and conflict, because another aspect of that is how you talk to your friends and family, and how you talk to your team, and how you manage conflict. And to watch people escalate a no you this, no you that, no you this, no you that, all the way up to like shouting, I don't understand that. It's not part of my personal brand. And they're having to learn in this restaurant how to actually make what they really want to happen, and they have to change the way they communicate in order to honor their core values, and the core values of the things that the principles that they want to present to their team and to the public. When we're in a time of conflict, what you do speaks, and how you speaks volumes about your confidence level. So when you know and you honor your core values, it gives you an immense amount of confidence. It makes you less defensive. It makes it easier for you to see somebody else's perspective. It makes it easier for you to give them the benefit of the doubt. So understanding your core values matters in communication of your brand and how you share your brand with others in ways that matter. Your core values are going to come through on whether or not you do videos in your branding, whether or not you do share a lot of articles on LinkedIn. All those ways of communicating are going to share who you are as a brand, and they're all influenced by your core values. If you try to take somebody else's, like I don't use a lot of swipe copy. I might have somebody else's template. So sorry, I'm speaking business language here, online business. I don't take a template from somebody else and plug in A, B, C, D and just put it out there. I might say, yeah, that's a good template. I could do this, this, and this with it. And then I'm going to use this sentence, and that's a really good structure. And I'll do it that way because I want to speak from my heart, and I want to make sure that I'm thinking for myself. And I want to make sure that the communication that I have in my business matters. It's one of the reasons why I do a podcast, right? It's like because I share from my heart and in a way that communicates my core values. Now, the third aspect of personal branding that I shared a minute ago is how you act. It's the actions that you take in your business or in your personal life. And I did an interview back in June of 2024 with a lady named Monica Pitts. And I interviewed with her on her podcast, but it's not coming out till later in 2024, so I don't have a link for that yet. But her story so fascinated me because she's already done the work of pulling core values and using them in her team and making sure that her business reflects those core values. So that is a really good interview on this podcast, showing how you can use your core values to inform your priorities and how you structure your work and the conversations you have with your clients. And it's really funny the way she says it. She's like, yeah, I don't think you should do that. So if you don't want me to tell you how that's going to work for you in your business, you can tell me you want your website to look that way, but I design websites. And I think this is what it needs to look like. So if you don't want to do that with me, then you might need to find somebody else to do your website. And I love that, right? She's very straightforward with them, but that's her core value of being upfront and honest with people. But she also uses them in the way she works with her team and structures their work. They move to a different area of the country. They let people work remotely because they had core values that had to do with spending time in nature or family time or those kinds of things. And then she eventually moved them all to a 4-day work week. So it's a very interesting conversation, and we dive in deeply to what it means to implement your core values in your business and the actions that you take. And she even talks about your website. She makes a comment. She said, I looked at my website and I realized that doesn't have anything to do with my core values or who we are as a company. They scrapped the whole thing and started over. I did another interview that I'm going to share with you on a podcast called Brand Science. And it's great. These guys just ask a lot of the why questions. And in that one, we get into very deeply how to use your core values to attract your ideal clients. And that's basically what I'm talking about here, is to show up as you. And this is in a business sense. So if you want to attract the right clients for your business, you need to show up as you. I have a coaching client who owns several businesses, and she feels like there's a pressure in her community to volunteer, but she has small children. And she said, I pour into my staff of all of my businesses. And she said, I feel like employing that many people is my community service. And I said, you have to show up as you. If you show up to volunteer because you feel this pressure to do that and to make it part of, like, oh, there's something missing from your brand, you have to do community service. I said, you're going to show up with a not nasty attitude, a not good attitude, and it's going to hurt your brand, right? So understanding what our boundary lines are, understanding who we are as people and what's important to us and how that manifests itself in our business really does make a difference in how you attract your clients. Now, when we're talking about personal life and how you show up, this is what you do in your community. It's what you do in your church. Like I said earlier, it's how you show up with your political affiliations or your community, different activity or the political action type groups or, social groups, social activity groups, and social action groups. The words are just leaving me. I apologize. But I actually did my own podcast on this one also back in June, talking about your personal life principles and sharing intentional optimism and how the 6 tenets of intentional optimism are literally my core values in 6 tenets of how I'm going to show up in the world. I have to review them every once in a while because I forget, because I want to be intentional about it. But I'm linking that one as well. It's a really good example of how you can, in your personal life, show up in ways that will honor your core values and give other people the ability to honor theirs as well. And it may be that that's a starting point for you, and that you kind of, like I said, I don't actually take somebody else's copy and just plug my name in it. I actually take it and mold it around. So you could take that and say, yeah, like this one, I don't like that one, or this one doesn't, this works, or maybe I want to add this other thing in. But this is how you actually look at how you're going to show up in the world. You can look and have the appearance of a specific brand. Like if you want to show up in corporate life and you want to wear all the right clothes and carry all the right bags and say all the right things. But if your actions, the way you do what you do, doesn't back that up, then it's not going to be authentic, right? So you need all of these pieces to line up with who you are as a person. And if belonging is more important to you, then you're going to do like me, and you're going to make sure that everybody feels welcome on this podcast. Everybody feels welcome when they come into my space. And if it's something more like respect, then that's going to show up a little differently for you than it would for me. Bottom line, and this is the one thing that I share at the end of every interview that I give, is that it is so important to think for yourself, because you are the only one who knows what your core values are. And if you don't know what they are, it's time to figure them out, because you need to be able to do that for yourself. And when you do that, you will be more authentic in every situation you are in, which will literally take your personal brand and say, this is who I am, right? Here I am. This is me. And there are ways in which we can be more transparent in certain situations than others, and we can be more vulnerable in some situations more than others. But authenticity is not equal to transparency and or vulnerability. It is just being real. And if that means we have shields up or whatever, or we wear a specific uniform for something specific or the work that we do, then that's exactly what being authentic means. And I am really curious to hear how this hits you, because when you stand tall and own your non-negotiables, you will present yourself or your business in an authentic way that attracts those who want and need to be in your circle. I had lunch today with a woman who we met almost 10 months ago, and immediately I thought, I like her energy. Something about her. And then we met again, and she shared too. She said, oh my gosh, the first time we met, I'm like, I need to know this woman. And then we finally, I actually had her come speak at an event, and from the stage, she said something that was the main connection point for us. And I just emailed her and I said, all right, enough of this dancing around. We need to know each other. And so we had lunch today, and it was just lovely. It was so wonderful. These are the kind of people, she's the kind of people I want to attract into my circles. I'm the kind of person she wants to attract into her circles. And both of us, I think, I don't know whether or not she would be able to name her core values, but she lives in an authentic way, which tells me she at least honors them, whatever they are. And so we are attracted to each other's circles, and that is a mutually beneficial thing. I know for a fact that this woman is going to be an encourager and a helper on my journey, as I hope to be on hers. So I'm really curious, how will this information today be implemented in your life? How will you use it? Are you more or less likely to go look and discover your own core values as a result of this? Because if you are more likely, click over to my website, button above my head that says free core values exercise. There's a link in the episode notes here as well. And that will get you started, and you need to know. So tell me, I want to know, how did this hit you? DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn. I respond to both of those. You can email me at andrea@theintentionaloptimist.com. If you're on my newsletter, you'll receive information on how to respond right back. And if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. I'm very surprised that this is the area that seems to be growing is YouTube. And I love it when I get new viewers and new subscribers. But while I'm thinking about it, also, if you would be so kind as to rate and review the show, of course, I'm going to ask for a 5-star rating. But if you would then follow it on your favorite podcasting app, it's going to help me, and it will mean that you won't miss any amazing episodes that are coming up. And we have some great ones planned for you. It is time to stand tall and own it, my friend. In the intro of the show, I actually say, it's time to just be you, my strong friend. So, what's stopping you? What's holding you back? Let's do it. Until next time.